God bless Mummy. God bless Daddy. God bless New. Amen.
Forgotten someone?
Who?
Keep thinking.
Me. I forgot to bless me. God bless me.
A toast to England's funniest writer, ready to put the smile back on our faces.
What did we fight that war for?
Well, it is over.
What am I doing about it?
You're doing what you're good at, writing plays.
I had enough of making people laugh. I want to make them see. I need to get out of London, somewhere quiet and trying to think for once.
You're going to live here. This is your new home.
Mummy says you're writing a book to stop people going to war. I think your book is a jolly good idea.
You're the only one that does.
I'd really like if you wrote a book for me. I'd definitely read it.
Shall we go for a walk?
Aren't you working?
It doesn't seem likely.
Could you think of a good name for a donkey?
Eeyore. They'll be gone in a minute.
Bees are good, aren't they? They just want to make honey.
Yes, I completely forgot about bees.
Life is full of frightful things. The great thing is to find something to be happy about.
I think I've got something for us. Ernest and I are putting your bear in a book. We're putting you in it, too.
What will you call me in the book?
Your real name, Christopher Robin.
Let's be hunters in the snow. Come on, don't get frostbite.
The creatures in the story are toys. They're toys, but the woods are real.
Winnie the Pooh.
It's rather...
Inexplicable?
Yes.
Evening news will put Christopher on the front page.
Why does everyone like Winnie the Pooh so much?
After the war, there was so much sadness. Then Winnie the Pooh came along.
Shall we go to the woods?
I've got heaps of writing to do, I'm afraid.
He has to be allowed to grow up. He has to know he's important.
Radio interview, newspaper interview. He can't do all this.
He's rather good at it.
He's a little boy. Come on, then.
Where to?
Home, I should think.
Thanks so much for being here. Simon, I'm just going to start off. Where did you find this kid? Where did you find this?
It was a lucky day. We did a big trawl of 9-year-old boys in the UK and many, many auditions. But I'm proud to say we ended up with a wonderful Christopher Robin.
When he walked in and started talking, we were just like, done, got it.
To be honest, no. We obviously liked Will, but we went through a process where we kept recalling him. I think you did about 8 auditions, didn't you?
3 months process.
Yeah, and it wasn't till the final day when we auditioned at the location with Domhnall and seeing their chemistry together and his skill as an actor absolutely proved he was the one.
Well, what did you know about Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh going into shooting this?
I knew Christopher Robin was a real boy and he did live in the world. I thought he was a jolly little boy playing in the woods with his animals, but it was nothing like I expected. I thought it was going to be happy, but after reading the script, I found out that the backstory was actually really sad.
Yeah, it's quite dark, right? And I think that's one of the interesting things about Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin is that this sort of great light came from a certain amount of darkness that especially came from A.L. Milne, and who, Donald, I'm curious, you know, one of the things that I loved about the film was how much you and Margot Robbie
Go on.
stick to a certain kind of, you're a bit stuck up and you're kind of rigid. And the film doesn't really let go of that until very specific moments, and I think that's a kind of a brave choice to make. I'm curious if when you're shooting that and when you're going through those scenes, if you ever shot alternates or if you ever thought, like, maybe I'm being too harsh in this scene?
I think you have to be honest about where they were, and I think if the ending of the film is going to mean anything, they have to start in a place where they are genuinely struggling to connect. It was post-World War I, he'd been in the war. He was suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. It'd been very traumatic. And then you have the fact that he's got class and that accent and all that sort of stuff on top of it, and was known as being quite a sharp individual anyway. Then his wife went through childbirth and did not really understand the mechanics of the thing and had her own version of depression afterwards and trauma. And so they were struggling to connect to each other, and I think just weren't ready for this child. I don't think there's any point pretending that everything was perfect, because, and also it was just a very different time. You spent half an hour with your parents if you were of a certain class every day, and you were on best behavior, and then that was it. You know, that was the way people lived. And actually coming through that and finding something beautiful, a real relationship and real connection, I think speaks even more strongly of the power of love and of being open to it, you know.
Yeah, I had no idea that you only spent 30 minutes a day with your parents. That was a real thing back then?
It wasn't an official thing, but that was the kind of parents they were. And Christopher Robin, in his memoirs, does say he only spent half an hour with his mother after breakfast and another half hour in the evenings. But during those 2.5 hours, she was very present and a lovely mother, you know, and we tried to get that sense. And Margot plays the character brilliantly, and you can see the joy on her face when she hands the boy the toy tiger for the first time, and she's the one who invents the famous voices, you know. So we tried to make it that she was a very loving mother in her way for a woman in that class at that time.
What was it like to sort of recreate all of these sort of the big ideas around Winnie the Pooh and all the different characters? Because there's all these different, outside of the big things like the names, there's all these different little hints that go along, that appear throughout the movie that are really about Christopher Robin and those stories that are inserted in different places, almost like Easter eggs at times.
Yeah, well, we just enjoyed, telling the story of this idyllic summer when father and son played together, and they stumbled almost by accident on these brilliant stories. And I love it when I see the film play where they come up with the name of Eeyore for the donkey or Tigger for the tiger, and you can feel the audience really enjoying seeing that iconic moment, but is actually just a sort of domestic moment between a father and son.
When you set out to make this movie, I mean, were you worried about sort of Winnie the Pooh is essentially a children's catalog of books. People love them. But were you worried about the sort of the darkness and the children's elements and how to blend those two? It's blended extremely well, but I'd imagine as a filmmaker, walking that line can be kind of difficult in the editing room.
Well, you just try and tell the story that you've set out to tell. And, some of my favorite moments in the film are the warmest, when you see the father and son playing together in that beautiful location, or the moments between Kelly's character, the nanny, and Christopher Robin, which are, very, very emotional, and I hope we've got the balance right. But as Domhnall says, we were telling a story set in the aftermath of World War I, where the world was in pain.
Kelly, you are one of my favorite actresses, if I can say that. I think that has to do with...
you can say that. Thank you very much.
Seeing Trainspotting an unhealthy number of times when I was growing up. But you have this voice that is so present in movies and television that is so wonderful. And sometimes you get to play bad and sometimes you get to play good. But in this, your voice is used to just solely show compassion and warmth the whole time. Where do you think that comes from? Do you recognize that in your voice, or does someone else have to kind of tell you that?
No. Are you talking about the accent or?
No, look, you sound great. It's great. Just right now.
I've just got an amazing voice. I don't know. It's, I don't think about it too much.
Yeah. What did you think about this character when you read the script? What drew you to it?
Well, I found reading the script just very emotional, and that's a good start, isn't it? Because you want to go and feel something when you go to the cinema, and yeah, we were really lucky. Frank Cottrell Boyce is an incredible writer, and I just wanted to get my teeth into every scene that I read for my character.
Your character is kind of like a surrogate mother to Christopher Robin, but at the same time, because she's the nanny, she has to have a certain amount of distance. Mm-hmm. What was it like sort of playing that role, having that line? Because you have moments and scenes where you have to be motherly, but you still have to sort of present this character that has an arm's length to him a little bit.
Well, yeah, she's very professional and she's very good at her job, and I think it would have been weird if I didn't have warm feelings towards the Christopher Robin character with Will playing that part. It's just that all sort of came very naturally. But yeah, I think the way she's written, she just gets on with the job and she cares. She cares hugely, as you can see sort of towards the end of the film. She cares so much that she has to speak up, and she eventually, has to leave his side.
Well, you have some pretty big emotional moments in the film for an actor of your age. What was it like doing those scenes?
It was pretty tricky, actually. You wouldn't, because his emotions are just so different sometimes. It's like two different people in one person. He can be really angry at one point and really sad. Then his father cheers him up and he can be happy again. And it was quite tricky, changing quite quickly.
You didn't make it look tricky at all.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I wanted to hear you respond to that compliment. You just shrugged it off immediately. Getting used to the compliments, huh? Donald, what did you first think when you got the script? What made you interested in doing the film?
I liked the notion that as a way through traumatic times and ugly times, that the answer is not to get uglier or harder hearted, but to open up and try and meet it with beauty. I liked that. That was kind of what was a salve on the wounds of the world in some sort of way, that it became a safe place, that he was able to create something beautiful through a relationship and through hard work and going at it. I just thought that was a really nice journey. And then obviously I wanted to work with Simon. I was incredibly excited when Kelly and Margot were kind of involved as well, and then Will, obviously. So it just got better and better as it went along in terms of all the different parts. But from the time I read it, I thought I also didn't know any of it before. And that was an interesting thing too.
I would say that so many films are about nothing in our current culture. And this film struck, I think, all of us in different ways, that it's about so much, so many important themes, and probably the most important theme of all, family, and it's a timely reminder to cherish the people around you, because as Kelly's character, News, says in the film, you never know what happens next.
I think it's a film about escape as well, like that it's okay to escape. When we first meet your character, he's stressed and trying to write this great book about peace after just following the First World War, and he can't sort of grapple with that book, and then he finds exactly what he wants in terms of making cultural impact through a kind of children's escape book, and he finds that escape as well quite fulfilling, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like I say, lecturing and being hard-hearted and having strong ideas and not listening and all those things are dangerous places to go. Certainty can be damaging, and especially if you're dealing with trauma. And I think just being open to be able to create, to find joy in things and to try to connect. I think that's the big thing, is that connection can save you. I think that's a beautiful thing. And then the great tragedy, which I had no idea about, was that this safe place he created for the world that was written for his son ended up being a very unsafe place for his son, because fame followed and they couldn't have foreseen that. I thought that was very interesting as well.
Yeah, the film kind of changes at one point to be very much about fame and how we create false idols and how we kind of ruin them and can bring them down. Simon, was that something that attracted you to it, considering you had made, My Week with Marilyn previously?
I didn't think of it consciously.
Previously, but
I didn't think of it consciously that there was a parallel. But obviously the theme of a child who becomes famous does resonate today in a different way. But to be fair to the characters in the film, the Milnes, there was no way of predicting these stories, these gentle little stories would become a worldwide sensation. And that in turn would put so much focus on their son.
Well, what was your favorite scene to shoot? What was the most difficult scene for you to shoot?
I think the most difficult one was the snow, because it would get in your eyes and it would sort of irritate them. But it was worth it.
You're not like when people were yelling at me. You're like, no, the snow was in my eyes. The lights weren't really working out.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was a really magical scene. But I think the best scene was the Coldstream Guards, because they played Happy Birthday for Christopher Robin, and they actually got the guards from Buckingham Palace, which is just brilliant.
He got that. Did you find that difficult that day, though?
Was
that your favourite, and it was the most difficult?
I think it was more nervous.
He got really embarrassed. It was really funny because they were all in front of him, and everybody was sort of focused on you, and that was I remember that day.
And they're
really
so
clearly.
tall with their gigantic hats.
Yeah. If you do something wrong,
You were
you feel like it's
squirming.
going to go all over you. But I tried counting them as I looked around, which sort of worked.
So you were nervous because you were sort of suddenly performing in front of a lot of other people rather than just the crew and the actors that you were normally working with?
Yeah.
I love that he counted. You told me that on the day as well. He just was like, while we were doing a take, he was going 1, 2, 3, 4.
And that was the end of week 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you'd only been an actor for 1 week.
Who told you to count?
I think it was the makeup lady, actually.
How do you guys make a young actor comfortable when they're on their first project and 9, 10 years old, hasn't done this before? What do you do to help?
There wasn't really any. He wasn't overly. You're just a very sort of feet in the ground, sort of good person, and he's very good company, and there wasn't any need. You're quite chatty as well.
And as
Makes it easy.
And as a director, you rely on the cast, and Domhnall, Kelly, and Margot were so brilliant with Will, treating him like an equal, but also being aware of his inexperience as well. So I, as a director, gained so much from the cast working with Will.
Donald, did you ever feel that the need that you and Margot every now and then had to sort of alert Will that, like, hey, we're going to be really mean to you right now, or hey, I'm sorry about that? Or was there always sort of an awareness of the text versus reality?
Will's smart. I mean, it wasn't a question of like, why is he shouting at me? It was like, no, it's in the script. I mean, but no, we had a conversation at the start, didn't we, about how it was going to have to be okay that on some days you have to build an atmosphere sometimes as well, like it's really easy to have a lovely day with Will and a lovely day of creating loveliness in the film, of playing or having fun or doing silly things, and that's a great way to spend time. And then there are difficult days where you have to build an atmosphere where A.A. Milne could be very chilly, could be very standoffish, and his son had to be afraid of his father's temper sometimes, things like that. And so we had to kind of build up to those moments a little bit. But as Kelly said, Will's pretty chatty.
I'd imagine.
So am I. So we ended up mostly just doing would you rather fall off a cliff or, jump over a tower. It was like silly stuff.
I'd imagine, though, on those days where A.A. Milne has to be kind of chilly, especially those days. I mean, already you're doing something physically different when you're portraying this character, the way that he holds himself and his back, and especially on days where he's quite angry or not paying attention to people, you can tell that you're kind of modulating your performance a little bit, because when he opens up to Christopher Robin on those days that are quite lovely, something kind of changes with his body. At least I noticed that. So I'm wondering if, like, on those days where you had to be chilly, did you have to carry that around for most of the day, or could you kind of go in and out?
I hope I went in and out. I mean, that would be miserable for everybody. I didn't mean to be. I don't think I was like chilly all the time. We had a good time, didn't we, Will? It was all right. Yeah, that's good. Will says no, so I'm happy. Yeah, that's okay.
We'll talk about it backstage, Will. You can tell me the truth. Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has a right here?
This question is for Domhnall. So we see in the trailer for this film, you have some smooth traditional dance moves. And in the closing credits, maybe it's all acting, but in the closing credits of another of your films, Crash Pad, you have some disco dance moves. So I want to know a little more about the dancing portion of your career and what other dance modes we can expect from you.
And there's some dance moves in American Made too, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm.
This is a revelation. I don't know about all this.
I'm so happy you asked that question. Play the music?
Yeah.
I mean, no, that was... Will's got amazing moves. Will has got unbelievable moves. I have not got great moves, but we had a dance instructor, and myself and Margot went through... What was that? Was it a foxtrot?
I think so.
No, it was a waltz. It was a delayed waltz. It was like a slow waltz. That's what that was. And so we just had to work on that over and over and over again, which was... worse people to do it with than Margot, but I mean, it was a bit frustrating, but that was grand. We got there in the end. The end of Crash Pad was a different thing, which is just, Crash Pad's just come out and is a very, very silly kind of comedy that I like quite a lot. But the end of that is just me dancing around. I was dancing around Vancouver, and we just went out with a camera, and it was like for the closing credits, they're like, do you want to go out? And I'm wearing a white suit, and I'm supposed to like Billy Ocean, so I was just dancing around the streets with people. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that apart from that was a long day. Yeah, but I enjoy a little bit of a dance. Yeah, it doesn't take much.
What about the dance in American Made? I haven't actually seen American Made yet, but in the trailer, there's this great shot of you kind of standing on a truck going like this.
That was not the move.
No, mine
that was more
better.
Mick
Thank
Jagger.
you.
That was very Mick Jagger. No, that was just, we were standing on top of crates and Doug wanted me to look like I owned the place. And that I was happy about the fact that we were smuggling all these drugs and guns around the place. So I said perhaps I could be dancing. And just did a little boogie. It was good.
Next question.
Hi.
Right here.
So I got to see the movie yesterday, and it was I loved it. I was just wondering, part of the story in the movie is about Christopher Robin dealing with being known as Christopher Robin from the book and being famous. Have any of you, as actors, felt that way, being known, people knowing you as a certain character or a role that you played?
Well, actually, I would take that to Will. Have you thought about, having done a lot of press for the movie and going out and having to see people like this waiting to hear you talk, does it remind you of the movie at all?
I wouldn't say it would remind me of the movie because most of Christopher Robin's press was on the phone, really. But I've done a lot of press, but surprisingly, I actually really enjoy it. You may be saying the thing over and over again, but it's just fun, really.
What about you guys? That question?
What was the specific question?
Was the sort of fame aspect of the movie and everybody sort of staring at Christopher Robin, did it remind you of your own experiences with celebrity, the entertainment industry, fame?
I think there's a. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I think there's a difference. Christopher Robin was a boy who did not ask, and did not want, and didn't do anything, apart from play with his father, and that took over. I want to be an actor, and I understand there's certain things that go along with that. Will is young, but Will wants to be an actor, as well as going to school and doing all those things as well. And Kelly is the same. Like, none of us have been coerced into doing they're choices we've made, and so you just have to make your peace with it. Margot is one of the most famous people in the world, and I was doing press with her, and I was just so amazed. Somebody said that, it must be, does it remind you of it? And people coming up to you all the time at paparazzi, and she gets at an insane level. And she said their first world, I'm not going to complain about that, their first world problems. And I was just so impressed. That's the way she talks about it away from the camera too. She said, I'm not going to complain about something when the upside is so great when I get to work. So I think I would feel the same way.
Next question.
Hi. So one of the best things about the movie when I saw it was how there's the theme of having Christopher Robin being the center of the entire book of Winnie the Pooh and what it meant to him and the people around the world. So my question is to each and every one of you, what does Winnie the Pooh mean to you?
I can answer really quickly and get that out of the way. Basically nothing, because I didn't read it growing up, and the first time I read Winnie the Pooh was in doing prep for the film, which is strange prep for a 34-year-old to be doing, pouring over saying, leave me alone, I'm studying, and you're just, flipping over a heffalump.
Cool, a children's book. Thanks, I got it, guys.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So not a lot, but over the course of the film, it became a safe place for me too, which is
and I was read Winnie the Pooh as a child, and I've read the stories to my children, and I think that's one of the things that children become parents who read it to their children and so on, and it's a sort of something just runs through the generations and binds families together.
I can't really say I read it while I was a child because I'm still one, but when I was maybe 5, maybe 6, I did absolutely love Winnie the Pooh. I even had a toy Eeyore, which I loved.
Has this movie sort of, are you done with Winnie the Pooh now? Have you had too much of it?
No, I still quite enjoy it, actually. I do sort of look it up and see, sort of more information about him and see if I could have done anything better and see what more of the backstory was.
Oh, so you're still working?
Yeah, in a way.
Kelly, what about you?
I didn't read the stories when I was little. My mum, we didn't have the books or anything, so it was a Disney movie version that I was aware of, and what was a real pleasure was reading the stories as an adult and realising the things that I loved about the Disney version of Pooh was how funny it is, and the books are really, really funny. They're very deep, and they've got big ideas in them, but the wit that he had, I think, was very special as well.
Guys, when can people see Goodbye Christopher Robin?
It opens in certain cities tomorrow, Friday, the 13th, and then it's widening throughout the United States and Canada in the weeks that follow.
What is it? It's open in New York tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're in New York, you can see it tomorrow.
You asked that like you were going to go buy a ticket tomorrow.
I should have booked ahead. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful film.
Thank
Give
you
them a
very
round of
much.
applause.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.